Have you ever just stopped and thought about all the invisible forces working around us, like right now? Well, there's one in particular, this hidden connection between electricity and magnetism that pretty much runs our entire modern world. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this amazing secret of physics.
So what is this force? I mean, it's the reason your phone can charge wirelessly, the reason an electric car can actually gain energy when it breaks, and it's the fundamental reason we have power in our cities at all. Okay, let's get into it. So first off, let's just look at where this invisible magic is hiding in plain sight. And I promise you, you've used it like a dozen times already today, probably without even thinking about it.
Yep, that's right. It's happening inside that little power brick for your phone. It's what makes every electric motor and fan spin, and it's how giant power plants and wind turbines generate every bit of their electricity. Even your fancy induction stove and the regenerative braking in an electric car, it's all the same single, beautiful principle at work.
The answer to how this all works is something called electromagnetic induction. And yeah, it can feel a little bit like magic, but it's really this elegant piece of physics, figured out way back in the 1830s by a total genius who started by asking a really simple but really profound question.
And that genius was Michael Faraday. His story doesn't start with some big discovery, but with a question that came from his gut feeling that nature loves symmetry.
Okay, so the logic here is it's perfect. At the time, they already knew, thanks to a guy named Ørsted, that if you run electricity through a wire, it creates a magnetic field. So electricity could make magnetism. Faraday just thought, well, doesn't it seem right that it should work the other way around? Could magnetism create electricity?
So after years and years of trying things, he finally found the answer. And it was a big yes, but with a really important catch. Just putting a magnet next to a wire did absolutely nothing. The secret ingredient, the key to the whole thing, was change. You had to be moving the magnet. That motion was what sparked the electric current.
And that one discovery gave us the fundamental rules of the game for electromagnetic induction. You can really think of them as two main laws. One tells you how to make the current, and the other tells you which way it's going to go.
Okay, first up, Faraday's law. And the big word here is change. To get any electricity, you have to change the magnetic field, or what scientists call the magnetic flux. Just think of flux as the amount of magnetic field lines poking through a coil of wire. If that amount is steady, you get nothing. But the second it starts changing, boom, you get a current.
So how do you make that change happen? It's actually super simple. You either move the magnet, or you move the coil of wire. It honestly doesn't matter which one moves, as long as they are moving relative to each other. That relative motion is the change, and that change is what makes the electricity.
But here's where it gets really cool. Nature has this built-in pushback, and that brings us to rule number 2, Lenz's law. It basically says that the new current you just made, well, it creates its own little magnetic field that always pushes back and fights against the change that created it in the first place.
Let's watch this play out. Imagine we're pushing the south pole of a magnet toward a coil of wire. Now, we know from Faraday's law that this is going to create a current. But which way will it flow?
That's where Lenz's law steps in. The coil fights back. It resists that incoming magnet. And to do that, the current automatically flows in just the perfect direction to turn the coil into an electromagnet with its own south pole facing the magnet. And what do two south poles do? They repel. So the coil is literally pushing the magnet away.
Now, this isn't just some weird quirk of nature. It's absolutely critical. It's the law of conservation of energy doing its job. Think about it. If the coil helped the magnet instead, you could just give it a tiny nudge and it would speed up forever, creating endless free energy from nothing. Lenz's law makes sure that doesn't happen. It guarantees you have to put in work. You have to push against that resistance to get electrical energy out. No free lunch in physics.
All right, so now we've got the rules down. Faraday's law says change creates current, and Lenz's law says that current always pushes back. So let's connect all this back to the real-world stuff we talked about in the beginning.
So, a generator? That's just a machine for spinning magnets near coils over and over, constantly changing the flux to make electricity. A transformer uses a changing field in one coil to create a current in a totally separate second coil. An induction stove makes a magnetic field that changes so fast it creates currents right inside the metal of the pot itself, and that's what heats your food. And regenerative braking? That's just using the car's wheels to run a motor backward, turning it into a mini generator that fights the motion and recharges the battery. See? It's everywhere.
Okay, here is one of the coolest demonstrations of this whole idea.
If you take a really strong magnet and drop it through a copper pipe, and copper isn't even magnetic, something really strange happens. It falls in what looks like slow motion. So, what is going on?
Well, as that magnet falls, its moving magnetic field is passing through the walls of the tube. This creates little whirlpools of electric current right inside the copper. They're called eddy currents. You can think of the tube as being made of a million tiny wire loops all stacked on top of each other.
And this is just a perfect, beautiful example of Lenz's law. Those eddy currents create their own magnetic fields that oppose the change that made them. And what was the change? The magnet falling down. So these currents create an upward magnetic force that fights the fall, slowing the magnet right down to a crawl. It's like a magnetic parachute.
So we've seen the basic idea, we've seen the rules, we've seen it in action. But let's just zoom out for a second and really think about how huge this one concept truly is.
If you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Changing or moving magnetism creates electricity. That simple relationship, that's the engine that drives pretty much our entire world.
I mean, without induction, there is no global electrical grid, period. Power plants, whether they're wind, hydro, or whatever, are all just really complicated ways to spin magnets. We wouldn't have electric motors, we wouldn't have transformers, we wouldn't have the modern world as we know it. Faraday's discovery literally lit up the planet.
So the next time you flip a switch, or charge your phone, or you see a wind turbine spinning way off in the distance, just take a second to remember what's really going on. It's this beautiful, invisible dance between electricity and magnetism.
This principle is absolutely everywhere once you know what you're looking for. So my question for you is, now that you know the secret, where are you going to spot this invisible force at work in your world next?